when you talk about intensity session and active rest, if you can describe a little bit better what active rest is in an interval session.
Yeah, so active rest, oftentimes we get done with an interval, especially like the VO2 interval, and we want to kind of just stop and stand there and be stagnant, not really moving. Active rest or active recovery is really where we do an interval and then say the rest time is like 2 to 3 minutes. During those 2 to 3 minutes, we want to still stay moving, but be going at a much, much slower pace. The reason we do that, right, is because we want to keep the blood flowing through our muscles. When we stop, whether it's like we're doing a lifting workout or some sort of interval workout on our feet or wheels, um, we tend to have our muscles sort of seize up, tighten up, and to help not have that happen, we want to keep moving so the blood keeps flowing to our muscles and they stay loose, so we can kind of go into that next interval still a little bit relaxed and ready to hit it hard again.
Well, in the over distance training, when you include speed, is it in the beginning of the session, the middle, or if it's distributed evenly through the OD session? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think it's about like all the coaches that I've had, it's sort of been different. I would say never right in the beginning, right? We want to warm up at least a little bit before we add speed into our workouts. But for me personally, I would recommend kind of sprinkling them throughout the workout. Um, so I would at least warm up maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then start adding speeds and just having an appropriate amount of rest time in between. So after 20 to 30 minutes, then you do a speed, take 2 to 3 minutes off, do another speed, and keep going. I've also had coaches that where we do speeds all sort of at the end of the workout. So we're doing a 2.5 hour ski or run or whatever. And then towards the end, maybe the last half hour of the workout, we'll start throwing speeds in. I think either way works, but me personally, I usually recommend doing them kind of sprinkled throughout the workout.
Okay. And then, another question also on the specific strength. Um, sometimes, I mean, how would you pick the right incline? So on the specific strength, so when someone is doing the workout, they're not uh, try to force the exercise and, have their technique breaking down. So how would you suggest, like, so they can complete the workout from the beginning to the end, how many number of reps it is in the plan, but again, how do you pick the right incline so the technique is not falling apart? Should be like starting like really easy and towards the end is getting fatigued enough. So anyway, just want to see what's your experience with that.
Yeah, with my experience, typically specific strength is like single stick, maybe like a core only double pull, and just straight double pull. With each of these, you kind of want to find the appropriate incline. With single stick in particular, because you're isolating some much smaller muscles, you want to find a pretty gradual climb, so nothing super steep, but something where you're able to utilize more of your obliques, your triceps, and your shoulders. I don't have any specific like incline or grade percentage to exactly look for, but something where you start off, you're able to get into a pretty good tempo while holding good technique. And by the end of it, you want to feel a little tired, but not overly fatigued, especially if you're doing 5 to 8 intervals of the same exact thing. But then going on to the next two, where you're doing like a core only double pull, or just a straight double pull. Typically, it's a much steeper, not like a straight up incline grade, but a steeper gradual climb where you're able to um, more utilize your big double pull muscles, so your core, your lats, and then finishing with your arms. Again, I don't have like a super specific gradient that you should be looking for, but in my past experience in college or with the pro teams, um, we typically use a slightly steep hill for single stick and then a pretty steep hill for any sort of double pull that we use.
Mhm. And my last question, jumping back to intensity. So, and it's been pretty hot in some of the days, especially, in the evening. If we have some master skiers, being at work during the day and only can do the workout uh in the afternoon, when again the heat stays quite late into the evening, or even sometimes even for the younger athletes in the morning, it's starting pretty hot. So when athletes doing intensity training, and let's just say the heart rate just not drop because of the heat, or maybe fatigue, the heart rate is not dropping down much within a 3 minute rest. Like, what would your recommendation be? Like, to what extent do you continue to do the intervals? So maybe it's better to substitute that intensity session with something else if the recovery is not going as quickly as no if it does normally.
Yeah, no, and that's excuse me, that's something we've had to deal with Team Berkey, just with it being so hot in Minneapolis and the Midwest in general. Um, yeah, if it's really warm, your heart rates are high during the interval, and then if they're not coming down during the rest time in between. Um, One suggestion is to either just slow down during the interval just to bring your heart rate to the appropriate zone that you're supposed to be in, right? If you were in L3 and our heart rate's in L4, we don't want that. So ski in your heart rate zones is huge. Don't go over your limit per interval. Another thing too is that if your heart rate just isn't coming down, you're not feeling good. Like I said during kind of my explanation of the week, it's totally fine to um, cut the intervals. So if you do one or two, just don't finish the rest of them. Um, if you do like a non-quality workout and you finish the whole thing, it's gonna take much more off of your training than if you just cut the workout. So don't feel like you need to finish a workout if your heart rate's really high and you're just not feeling it. I think that's a big kind of psychological thing with a lot of skiers, especially a lot of the young ones that I work with. They want to continue the workout even if they're not feeling great. It's smarter to call it quits or lower the amount of time or intervals you're doing just so you can feel better in the long run. But yeah, either of those I think would be good.